Hello and welcome to the Nordic Takedown podcast. Welcome everybody to another episode. Hey, how is everyone doing? We have Jonah and we have Viktor with us tonight. How are you both?
Good.
Yeah, cool. Don't all go at once. You know, I guess you guys have been talking enough tonight as it is, but yeah. Awesome, guys. Awesome to be back. I'm excited to hear what you guys have been up to, because you guys have done way more play than I have. You guys have been places. You guys have talked to people. And, you've even been playing outside the country. Actually, Jonah, you play outside the country the whole time because, Sweden's home. But how are you both? I'm just talking, and you need to respond.
It feels really good to be back in Trondheim. For me, been traveling, as I said last episode, was in Essen, then was in Oslo, and Copenhagen. So first of all, I just want to say a huge shout out to Steven and Katrina. I stayed with them for the PQ in Copenhagen, and it was amazing. Shared the couch with 2 cats. It was a blast.
I wish I would have shared the couch with 2 cats. I also went to Copenhagen, and me and Adam and a bunch of other Swedes from the Stockholm area mainly. We had a hotel experience that was
a hotel experience. Okay,
you know where this is going.
Do we need a separate episode for this?
Possibly. I don't know.
God, give us a nutshell. Give us a nutshell.
The nutshell is that as me and Adam talked about a couple of weeks ago, when I did really well in the tournament, apparently I do perform better when I sleep.
Okay,
before I play, the night before at least.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought? And that there was not enough of that going around in the hotel we stayed at. So okay.
Wasn't horrible anyway, but it really small and really cramped rooms and really warm.
Oh no,
it was so warm in those rooms, so it was hard to sleep. And apparently the top bunks of the other room where Philip and Nicola was sleeping, they were sleeping on stone slabs or something like that. They were really small beds for them. Adam didn't sleep much, I think, and I know for a fact that Philip was really cranky in the morning from not sleeping well enough.
Oh.
So yeah, it was a dubious experience. It was cheap though, so I guess you get what you pay for. You get what you pay for.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I shared a room. It's interesting that people don't sleep well when they share a room with Nicola, because I shared a room with Nicola in Malmö, and he woke me up in the middle of the night. I think he must have been dreaming that there was an explosion or something like that, because he woke up going, whoa, 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 did you just hear that? I'm thinking, what? But that was a moment. But it sounds like maybe Philip had a similar experience.
Yeah,
I don't know. No, Nicola's great. We love him.
We like him. We like these guys a lot.
Cool. Well, that's taken up the first 5 minutes of the podcast. The plan for today is we obviously will be stupid and really bad content creators if we don't address the PQ. But we're also going to be taking that conversation on to something a little bit deeper that comes out of the current meta, and most of this episode is going to be an interview with someone in the community who has a very particular opinion about the current meta, and so you're going to be going on to that, but we're not going to go into that just yet, because we want to kind of get into that conversation and run up to that conversation properly. If you've seen the title, if you've seen the show notes, okay, you probably will get it. But if you haven't listened to it yet, we're going to keep you in suspense. But before we get that, we do want to talk about what we've done in the week, because you guys have done PQ. I haven't. I went to my local play, and I took my Han to Blue Deck, and I won some games. I didn't come...
Let's go!
I didn't come bottom of my thing, because I actually took something that worked a tested deck, something that I'm learning actually that I can play well, and it actually went okay. It went very well. I went two for two, but my losses were double losses, and so I won the first game both times, and then got held in the second game, and lost the second game. So I just lost the second game. Palpatine Green is disgusting. I will say that.
That's an incredibly hard matchup for him to lose. So,
and it went so long that if he had Endless Legions, he could have played Endless Legions. So, but he didn't have Endless Legions, so he was kicking himself with that one. But yeah, I'm really, really pleased that actually I went to an event and I took a deck and I won some games. Not won the whole thing because, double losses, etc., etc. But that was me. That takes up 5 seconds. You guys went to the PQ.
Oh, yeah. So, first of all,
what happened?
Big thanks to Faros Cigarer for a great event.
Yeah, I think they did a great job in organising that. And there were only 2 guys running the whole thing, really. And they did a tremendous job. It was well organised. Everything ran smoothly. The information was crisp, and you knew when everything was going to happen and how it was going to happen. I couldn't be happier about it. There was
lunch break.
Yeah, everything was well
organised. There was lunch as well.
No, well, they didn't give it, but there was a break for it. And it was, the timing was perfect. There was nothing fancy about this place and the organisation about this. They had no cutouts or animated commercials from FFG. The place was cramped in a basement, but it didn't feel cramped. The AC was working. It was good lighting in there. A little bit high volume on the sound, I think, because it was a little bit noisy. But overall, a tremendous experience with very little in terms of flair, and just everything came down to heart and, a good mind for it. They did a really good job.
Yeah. So,
great.
Just let's try to give a quick rundown. Maybe there were 53 players.
So who won? How did it go? 53 players?
Yeah. 11 Boba Greens.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was the most popular deck. Notably, there were 2 Boba Reds.
Yeah.
But only 1 Boba Yellow.
And 1 Boba Blue.
Oh, 1 Boba Yellow. Okay.
Not seeing it on the list.
No, there wasn't. Yeah.
1 Boba Tarkentown also.
Yeah.
And then the second most popular leader, I believe, was Sabine. 6 Sabines.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yep.
Or 6 ECLs. 1 Tarkentown and 1 yellow, actually.
Yep.
And then otherwise a good spread of some Basques, some Cad Banes. They are, of course, local to Copenhagen. Shout out to
4 Cad Blues.
Yeah.
Wow, it's spreading. Yeah,
it's spreading.
Yeah, it's a really cool deck.
It is.
But then maybe the craziest, and Victor is gonna rant about this later. Gin Blue.
Yeah, the Gin Blue.
Whoa. Okay, that's nice. How did it do? The Gin Blue. Did it make top cut?
Middle of the pack.
Okay.
Yeah, probably like middle.
No, middle of the pack.
Yeah. But, if it's set up right, it can be useful, Gin.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Should we do the top 8, or should we talk about our runs first, Victor?
Let's go with your runs first, and then we can move into that later as well. So yeah, Jonah, how did you go? That's what I want to know.
So I brought Bobo Green.
You bought Boba
Metaslave,
Green as well.
Guilty.
I've lost so much respect for you, Jonah.
I was playing and testing a lot with Adam, and we talked about bringing the same deck. He had, of course, had a lot of success with Boba Green in the showdowns, and I also really like the feel of the deck. I've been saying many times how it's just playing broken cards, really. So it has very many good matchups. But I have to say I did not get enough practice in. So my first game was against Ray Tarkentown, and I think I played the matchup a bit wrong. I lost the first one, very, very, very close. Won the second one because I just had a great curve, everything I needed. And then again, lost the third one like the first game, very close. I think my takeaway after the loss was that I attacked the base too much. I should have just focused on clearing the board, getting those force units away so you can't get force thrown, etc. So that was a rough start for me, losing the first one, because then of course it's going to be a bit more difficult with strength of schedule and so forth. In total I ended up 4-2. So my second loss was against Piotr. I think he played at Skövde Store Showdown.
Yeah, Piotr. Yeah,
he played a Bosk blue.
Yeah.
So we sadly went to time.
Back.
But I did concede because I would not have won if we had more time. So that was completely fine.
And that's the respectful way to do it, I think.
I guess then we didn't need to get the double loss. So ended up 4-2. Missed the cut sadly because of strength of schedule. I think there were 1 or 2 players that got in with 4-2. But I did get to attend a side event, so that's actually a big shout out to Faro Cigarer again, because that's not something that's even in the PQ system, right? That's just something they did as a store. Nice. So got to attend a Spark of Rebellion draft
with
for
good pricing.
Yes,
really good pricing as well.
So was this all in one day?
Yeah.
This is all in one day as well. Wow.
So basically the top 16, so 16th to 9th place, got to play a free Spark of Rebellion draft, while the top 8 were playing the top games.
A free Spark of Rebellion draft as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
With a hyperspace Vader as
and
hyperfoil.
Victor, you don't actually know this, but when I was walking up the stairs, I looked towards where you were sitting and asked, "Oh, how's the draft going? Oh, you're playing a really good Jin deck." Mm-hmm. I got inspired. I drafted Jin Green, got 2 walkers, and won the draft, baby.
Oh, you did.
So I got that Hyperfoil Vader.
Hyperfoil Vader. Yeah.
Very nice.
That was really nice. So that was a really big pick-me-up after missing the cut, right? Because, of course, my goal was to reach the cut. But getting that Hyperfoil Vader is actually better pricing than I expected.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Cool. So you went 4-2, won the side event draft.
Yeah.
Great. Cool. Victor, how did you do? Did you?
Oh man.
You didn't sleep. I think that's.
I didn't sleep, and I was
cranky,
and I was not my best myself.
Wow.
I brought my Sabine.
Yeah.
Which I feel really comfortable with, and I was expecting a lot of Bobos, so I tweaked it a bit against Bobos. I even actually tested a bit the last week with Adam, and I don't think our testing results were necessarily significant, because he had some really bad draws and so on, but they were far from discouraging for me. So I felt really confident in the Boba matchup, and I really, really wanted to see that, and didn't see one Boba all night. So I started out with the CAD Blue, ran straight into Jonas, and that was my first. I was actually, this was horrible. They did because there was a late drop. So when they did the first pairing, they had to repair everyone. So I was paired against a hand 2 blue, which is such an easy matchup. I just run straight through that.
That's Sabine,
almost an auto win. And then I got repaired, and I looked, oh no, it's Jonas. and that's anything but an easy matchup. He's so good with that thing. So I took down the first game quite thoroughly, and then sideboard. And he took down the second game. It was really close, but he got it. And then we went to the third game. And I had it, man. I had it. I claimed, and he couldn't finish. I knew he couldn't finish. I claimed. I had a 4 course in my hand. I needed 3 damage on base with a 4 course. That's a given.
Yeah.
But no, I only got 2. There was both.
Did you Adam? Did you humble it?
I worse than humble it. He needed 4 and had only 3.
Yeah.
I needed only 3.
And you got
and I
2.
only got 2.
Yeah, sorry, Adam. If you're listening back to this as well, we're coining the for a cause.
It's the humble fumble.
The humble fumble. I was so sad at that, but that's the stuff that happens.
Yeah,
I wasn't distraught about it. I thought I played that really well for my state, and then I got into Boss Green, won fairly easily, and then I went into Piotr's Boss Blue, and I just couldn't handle it. No. I got him into top deck mode, which was pretty much my game plan into Boss Blue. It did really well for me in testing, but he got what he needed anyway, and he got me in 2 games. So yeah, and I don't think I played very well into him either, but he played well, and the Boss Blue is a hard matchup. If he does see the cards he needs, it's rough. Yeah. I think he healed for 16 damage twice in one of the games. So that's more than
so 16. He healed for 16 damage in one go.
Yeah,
2
and
times.
then a couple of moves later, he healed for another 16 because I clawed my way back up there, and you're back down to 5 or whatever.
So you potentially did like nearly 60 damage.
I think I did something like 40-50 damage that game. It's just disheartening. So I was a little bit in that mood, and that's when I got paired into the Gin Blue, and I had I to this day do not know what that deck is doing. That deck wasn't doing anything. It looked like it healed a bit, it played some weenies, and then I lost. So I tried to side deck a bit, and then it healed a bit, and then it played some weenies, and then I lost again, and I don't know how I lost those games. It just happened. I cannot have been playing very well, but I don't know.
That's the fun with anti-meta decks, because you turn up with these, and your advantage having them is that no one knows what you're doing. It was the advantage I had when I took my my Kira. Like, by game 2, they understood what I was doing, but to begin with, it's like, okay, is this aggro? Is this control? What are we doing? How do I deal with this? And so I got in some really early damage, and then they worked it out, and etc. etc. But that was my advantage there.
Yeah, but honestly, though, that advantage should not be that much. Like, if I would have been a proper performance, and that deck would have been in the hands of a noob, there wouldn't have been a contest. Yeah. He was playing great, and I was playing poorly, and that's the answer. Yeah. Like, Sabine could crush that deck probably if my deck would have been in the hands of a competent player, and his deck not. It wouldn't have been. He was just better than me. That's the only explanation here. He played much better than I played, and that's why he won. And that's the simple fact. Then we had lunch, and I wasn't feeling it. I was 1-3, and I knew I was probably going to pick up 2 games, but it wouldn't put me anywhere near anything. So I was just like, nah, screw this. I'll drop and play the draft, because the draft had hyperfoil Vaders. So I played the draft. I drafted a really good deck.
What did you draft?
The Gin Green that we talked about.
Yes.
I drafted the Gin Green, and I got home one. I got 2 97th Legions and 1 Reinforcement Walker. So I had
Bro, that's almost even more crazy than mine.
Yeah, it was a crazy top end, decent opening units. It was a really good deck, and I ran through that deck, but I was getting knackered, man. And when we went into round, the semi-finals, there were 3 of us undefeated players. Yeah. One of us got down pad, and we were playing, and I sat down and I played the guy that drafted a Luke and a Kanan, and it was a crazy deck. I didn't expect to win, and I killed that deck. That deck. And then they told me that he had been sitting down at the wrong table.
No.
What? So the 2 kind of semi-finals, I suppose, that just the 2 guys had filed up. I was sitting at the right table, and the app was using nicknames. So he presented himself with his real name. I had no way of knowing that he was sitting at the wrong table. There was no way I could know that. And I beat him squarely. And the other guy beat the other guy squarely, not knowing that they were sitting at the wrong tables. This was not our fault.
No.
But they could not fix it in the system. So we had to skip the round and just play it as it never happened. So I had to play another round against being down paired against the guy. And I was really frustrated with that because I was really tired. I couldn't see straight. But I beat that guy as well squarely and got into the final. So I had the final for Vader against the only other guy that was undefeated. The same guy that I would have faced if we would have just counted that last game.
Yeah.
So it was just like the extra match did nothing. It changed nothing. And except it made me even more tired. And I played him. And I played him till I made a play mistake. I made several play mistakes. The second but last round, I just screwed up. I had to remove one of his units. I had home one out, and I was pendling between 29 damage on my base down to 20 every turn.
Yeah.
So I was just healing up and then hitting him, and he had no board. And he played a little bit of a board and made a little bit of damage, and I killed his units and healed up. And that second to last turn, I used my home one to hit his unit when I could have just removed it with any of my units, and didn't hit base. That unit had to claim. So when I hit with my home one that last turn, I only got to 29, and he won.
No! That whole game commentary you just did that. I was like, so did he win? Didn't he win? Did he win? Didn't he win? I was like, the way he's talking, it doesn't win.
That was the closest anyone has ever come to a hyperfoil Vader without getting it. I was really angry with myself. I was really depressed with the whole situation, having to play that extra game. And it was just, I was frustrated. I'm still sorry. Bleep that. I'm still really frustrated, actually.
Dude, I was so close to not having to actually do any editing this time.
I'm sorry, man.
No, it's fine. But you were that frustrated.
Yep.
Okay, but we have now at length talked about our experiences. Let's look at the top 8.
Yes.
Because
what
this
happened?
Was very interesting, actually. The top 4, of course, in a elimination bracket, play against the bottom 4 of the top 8.
Yep.
And all of the top lost.
Yeah.
Whoa.
All of the top 4 lost. They were all screwed into really, really bad matchups.
Yeah.
Adam was really frustrated with this because we had 4 of our Swedes in that top. Well, 3 in the top 4. So we had Philip, we had Nicola, and Adam in the top of the Swiss, top 4 of the Swiss. So they all got paired into their absolute worst matchups, and they all lost. Except Kevin actually won his game, but he was also not the top 4 actually. So Kevin was the only Swede in the semifinals. He was on a Sabine deck, and then there were 3 Bobas. No?
3
Yes.
Bobas. So there are 4 Bobas total. Red, yellow, and 2 greens.
Yeah. So the top 8, Cad Bane Blue was the only undefeated deck. Steven, shout out. Really good run.
So good with that deck.
But got super unlucky into the Boba Green in the top 8, which he actually beat in Swiss. So that feels kind of bad. But still an incredible run from him.
Yeah.
And then Kylo Yellow lost against Boba Yellow. Boba Green versus Boba Red. This was actually Morten Pedersen.
Yep. Switched from Sabine Red into Boba Red.
That was cool.
He is really good with those off meta decks.
Yeah. Oh, so this was Morten. He didn't go with. I thought when I saw that he was up there, I thought he went Sabine Red.
No,
but no, wow.
Boba Red, and he put Adam to sleep.
Yes.
Adam had no answer to the space battalions of the Boba
because
Red.
the game was boring, or
No.
no? Okay.
No,
I think
because space.
yeah. He put him
because
down,
space.
and yeah,
Yeah.
space man.
yeah.
So yeah, Morton beat Adam, and the Kylo Yellow was Philip, and then the Kira Green was that ran
Nicola.
into Boba Yellow was Nicola.
Yeah.
Well,
Nicola played Sabine, didn't he?
oh yeah, Kevin
Yeah,
beat him.
yeah.
Kevin beat him. Yeah.
And then top 4, Boba Yellow. This was actually a very interesting list. It was a space version. It beat the Boba Green. And
So,
Morton with his
wow.
Boba Red beat Sabine.
Mhm.
So we had a Boba final.
Wow.
Boba
He
Red
really is.
to
Boba
Boba
really
Yellow.
is taking
Yeah.
a.
And the Boba Yellow was the space Boba Yellow, so not the regular Boba Yellow, into
Yeah.
a fairly space heavy Boba Red.
And the Boba mirror is kind of all about tempo. And I think the yellow version has the big advantage of playing
Yeah.
cunning, right?
Cunning is
So,
such a tempo card.
We also saw that in the final. Henrik playing Boba Yellow, winning 2-0.
Mhm.
So congrats to him. He's a super. He seems like a super funny guy, and he was like bragging about him not even playing a sideboard,
Yeah.
still winning the PQ.
Yeah. So it's like the sideboards are for
Sideboards are
noobs.
Yeah. Morton relegated to being the forever second place.
Always the bridesmaid.
Yeah. No, right.
Oh, he's such a nice guy though, Morton.
He is, he is.
Super,
And he's
super
such
nice guy.
super competent player.
Yeah.
Super good. Well.
Well, congratulations then to
Yeah.
the winner.
This-
What was his name? Henrik. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this would mark pretty much the halfway point of the PQ season. So
Yep.
there's been 19 PQs at this point, and there are 21 left. 10 out of which would be in the US, 2 of which would be in the UK. So there are some.
Yep. Edinburgh's
European,
still to go with the UK ones. Yeah.
as is Cardiff. So UK,
Yep.
not England. So we do have 2. I think 2 German ones left. Yeah.
Yep.
Idstein and Berlin, and then we got 1 Spanish one left, Seville.
Yeah.
One French one in Toulouse and Bologna in Italy. Also a Canadian one in Verdun. So there are a bunch of
Yeah.
PQs left.
I'm just
Are
looking-
some of them after the new set, or will all
No.
be?
The last one
No.
would be the 2nd of November
Okay.
in Kissimmee.
So
Kissimmee?
pre-release
Kissimmee.
day. So yeah.
Yeah, in
Florida,
Florida,
yeah.
US.
Yeah.
So that would still be before the new
Yeah.
set.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, looking down these lists right here, we're on swoocompetitivehub.com, and there's a lot of Bobas in the top 8.
Yeah.
Yep.
About
A lot of
40%. Just more than-
which is crazy.
little
And
bit
even the
more.
winners were like, there's like, there's
Yeah.
some Rays there, but Boba Blue. We've got a Boba Yellow, obviously one, a Boba Green. Please tell me a Boba Red one as well. We've got the full rainbow.
No, I don't
But
think
yeah,
it-
but is I mean this is the popular opinion, unpopular opinion, or popular opinion, or the big talking point right now is like,
Yeah.
is Boba a problem? Like, it's a very strong hero. It obviously works with all the colors.
Mhm.
Like, is this an issue for the game?
Yeah. So this is why we brought in Pontus.
Yes.
And because he has some interesting opinions on this topic, and I think he laid it out really clearly and in a very comprehensive way. So we would like him to be able to present those views to you all.
And so both of you interviewed him actually
Yeah.
before we did this part of this
Yeah.
as well. So the next, say, 40 minutes of this episode, it's a bit of a longer one tonight, so you get a few bonus minutes from us. But just kind of round up a little bit, okay? What the premise of the interview, of the conversation, and just give us
We
a bit of a
actually
preview.
presented quite well in the
Yeah.
so let's
Then
get into it.
so you're going to be like hearing this in about 5 minutes anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, but he has I guess, and from what you said before, a non-obvious reason to why Boba probably maybe should be banned.
Yeah, maybe.
Possibly as a reason for people to stick around for this.
Yeah.
Just let him
Yeah.
speak to that.
Yeah. So we'll let him do that. Boba, and I let you guys do this. I didn't really want to be involved in this interview because I only have experience with Boba of losing a lot to Boba. Like Matthias, he's like the person I play against most in with Star Wars Unlimited here in Quivda. And I didn't choose to play him because I never got a Vader. I don't own a Vader. I own 2 now, so I could go into there, but it was one of those cards where if you have to pay, let's say 800, 900,000 crowns at the time to if you wanted to play that deck. And so I was like, well, I'm not even going to go there because so it was always kind of a feel bad thing for me because I was never lucky enough to do that.
Yeah.
I pulled the Lukes, I pulled other cards, I went for an easy kind of layer, easy to play deck to begin with, etc., etc. But I never got there with Boba, so you guys were prime to get into that because the deck even more. But how do you guys feel about Boba in this question? Now, I'm interested before we go into this.
Yeah. I think the interesting part about the conversation is what the community thinks. Like, are people too tired of Boba? Is he really too strong? Why are we seeing so much of him? And are people okay with it? Or do they really want to change? So that's the question, if a potential ban or restriction could make a change that the community would like. But that's always hard to know before.
Yeah, no, that's really the question at heart here. Me personally, I don't have an issue with Boba.
No.
I don't mind it. I don't feel oppressed playing into it.
No.
And it's but like we talked about, that's down to my playing style and the kind of decks I would choose. And a lot of decks are excluded from being viable at competitive play because of the way Boba works.
Yeah.
Now, that's what we get into in the interview.
Before we spoil too much.
No, definitely. Well, I won't ask any more questions about that then because I'm really looking forward to hearing this interview. So we'll let you guys hear that. I will say playing against Boba is not as depressing as playing against anything with overwhelming barrage.
Well,
But Boba Green, no!
Boba plays the
Obviously,
barrage.
I mean that I think is the most depressing thing about it. If I'm just going to put my 2 cents in, but it's not so much against the thing. But we've had our say. I've had my say. I do feel like I've missed out a little bit, but that's fine. We will let you as the listener do about this. We will sign off ourselves. You guys finish off the episode during the interview. So until next week, we will say May the Force be with you. And see you later and enjoy.
Okay, so hello and welcome to this section of the pod where we will take a bit of a discussion approach. We actually have a guest here. Welcome, Pontus.
Thank you.
So we've been talking a lot about Boba, him being good, of course, but you've seen all of these discussions going around on the internet about this thing called the Boba problem. And Pontus, you reached out to us because you think it's a very interesting I'm missing a word here. Topic. That was what I was searching for.
Yeah.
So it's great to have you on. Do you just want to introduce yourself quickly?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Pontus. I'm from Västerås. I'm like the judge guy in Västerås, basically. But I play, of course, as well. I've been playing TCGs for a long time, and I had a break for a while before Star Wars came back, and now I'm fully in. So I love building decks, so that's one of my things when it comes to
nice. Yeah,
So.
I did actually see your Hunter take on the Discord. So if you need more spicy decks, definitely join the Discord. Pontus can provide those.
Yeah.
But okay, let's
Hunter's
get
underrated.
let's get back to the topic here.
Yes.
So Boba problem. Victor, do you maybe want to tell us what this is about?
So I think we need to look at this because there's a lot of discussion going on the internet about the Boba, and I think seeing how prevalent that discussion is something we need to address. And I want to break it down to basically 3 concepts that we need to look at. Why is Boba strong? What is making him perform this well? Because he has performed really well in the PQ season this time. And then, is that a problem that we should address? And then thirdly, if we want to address it in some way, how could we? Because a deck being strong doesn't in of itself present a problem. Not necessarily. But there might be issues that stem from a deck being strong. So I think that's a third thing that we need to have in that discussion. And then, obviously, what could be done if we find that something should be done about it.
Yeah.
But let's begin from the beginning. Why? Why is Boba strong? And I think you, Pontus, when you reached out to us, brought up a really interesting point there.
Yeah, I would say that Boba is for sure is strong. You look at his stats, no other leader has this stats, and he has a powerful effect. But I also think that this issue is not only about him being strong. I think he's one of the strongest leaders, but I wouldn't say that he's overpowered personally. And I think the reason I don't know, should I get into that part right away, by the way?
Why not?
It feels natural to me. My point is that I think he is powerful and that he became popular early. And then people saw Boba Fett being successful and being a powerful deck that a lot of people gravitated towards for different reasons. And then as that happened, skilled players, or all players, but skilled players were gravitating towards the deck or towards the leader, which made them want to play it more. And then they also won, and more people saw them winning. So that's like a cycle of more and more people. And what people then see is Boba Fett succeeding, and they think that is because Boba Fett is better, only because he's better than other leaders. It's not because of all of these things together.
Yeah.
So,
it's kind of a survivor's bias thing, right? Where if good players win with this deck, it will just make it even more popular.
Yeah, and I think we heard a lot of good players talk about it in this way, because in the beginning of set 2, Boba Green wasn't very popular, and that was the favored flavor of Boba in set 1. So a lot of the really good players that had been on Boba Green felt so happy when they could go back to Boba Green when they finally found a good Boba Green deck. But I don't think the Boba Green of set 1 and the Boba Green of set 2 plays even remotely similar. They're very different decks. So I don't think it's actually, and I think you have to separate Boba Green and Boba Yellow because they're very different decks. They aren't even the same archetype. Really.
But if we just take like one step back to Boba being good, I think another thing that vouches for that fact is that you can play Boba in any color. Like we've seen Boba perform in green, as you said, yellow, especially in the first set, right? Green was the most popular, but then when the meta started to answer Boba, and that's what we want, like we want to find solutions with the cards we have, not necessarily having to ban cards, but just finding solutions to leaders, and we saw that with Hard Control. So Hard Control became more popular, and then kind of Boba Yellow became more of a thing on the end of set 1.
But I think this is actually a symptom of the same thing. I think the reason that we saw all of these different Boba decks is because people were playing Boba and he was a popular leader, and then people tried some other things, and those also succeeded because good players were playing good decks.
I agree with that.
And at the PQ we saw a red Boba, and I think actually a blue Boba won the PQ or something. So
blue Boba's been around since set 1 even. So the red Boba being this strong is pretty much a set 2 thing and a late thing here.
Yeah.
But I think a third thing maybe worth mentioning, like for the quality of Boba as a card, is the cards around the leader, right? We have 2 clear cards with Fett's Fire Spray and Boba Fett's armor that directly reference Boba in the text and work extremely well with the leader. And
yeah, those cards are very strong, and you can't really look at Boba in a vacuum without them, since they're in his color, and they are directly referencing him. That they are mostly this strong in combination with him. So I think those 2 cards are incredibly important in the discussion, especially in the last part of the discussion. If you want to take actions, maybe this is an avenue to look at. And I think there's a third card that needs mentioning here, which is why the Boba Green archetype still is so prevalent over the other archetypes. I think if we didn't have Boba Green strong again, we wouldn't be discussing this. The fact that Boba Green is strong is because of Overwhelming Barrage. Probably the strongest card in set 1, or at least one of the strongest cards. And in Boba Green, it is very oppressive because it synergizes with his flip turn. And me and Adam were talking a lot about how the designers might have ended up in this position where they designed a leader that has these great stats, has these other cards that synergizes this well with him, and a strong ability. And Adam, he said something that I think is probably correct. They must have not understood in their testing how strong the ability was. The ability cannot have looked this strong to them in their testing. And I immediately thought, look at the stats. I don't think they raised the stats to make him stronger, because they probably wanted Boba to be strong. He's a fan favorite. Probably a lot of the designers like him as a character, so they wanted a strong Boba. And if he wasn't strong in their testing, they might have done things to make him stronger. And I don't think they raised his stats to make him stronger. I think it's the other way around. I think his stats were designed possibly for him flipping at 6. Because what happens with the ability, if he originally in their testing flipped at 6, well, really then his flip turn is nowhere near as strong. Isn't like him being able to play 9 when you get to play 6 is not oppressive at all. It's not even particularly strong. Him being able to play 8 when you only get to play 5, or if he ramped 4, that is oppressive.
I think he wouldn't be played if he was deploying at 6.
No, he'd be a little bit weak at 6. Even if you ramp him, he'd be very balanced or even under balanced. So I think they had this ability on a 6-cost flip, and they thought the ability is, it's fine.
Yeah. But there's one more point there, actually. And it's going back to the same thing. I think it could also be, I'm not sure though, but it could also be the exact opposite. That the player base, and us included, are reading into things that aren't there, so to speak. That the designers found that Boba wasn't that good because he actually not necessarily is better than other alternatives, just that we haven't seen them. I'm not sure that that's the case though, but it's just like it could be that there are other decks that they played that were like beating Boba and beating Sabine and beating all of the meta decks, so to speak, but that we haven't seen them in the current meta.
Well, especially if you look at that they did a lot of testing with the 3 sets together. So there might be, if you look at something like Maul or other leaders coming in set 3 here, that could possibly be very strong. But I doubt, when you look at the FFG team, when they've been out playing, they've been bringing Cassian decks and all sorts of decks, and they are being resolutely demolished by regular players. So I think for all this is pure speculation, but I think their testing environment could possibly have been looking a lot different than the live environment that you get out to. I've been part of testing teams, and I think when you start working with the first version of a card, you kind of that's how you think about the card. Even if they redesign the card, afterwards to make it stronger or less strong, you still perceive it in your head. It's still that kind of card that it used to be. So I've missed, when I've been in testing groups, that cards got much more balanced after small adjustments, because I still thought my headspace was still that it was this strong card that it used to be.
Yeah, but we have to remember, like, playtesting is never going to be... They can never anticipate exactly how the meta is going to turn out, right?
No.
Because they have very limited time. Like, even when they're testing one specific version of a set. As soon as they change a few cards, then it's completely different, right? So you don't have the resources to test all of that. But let's try to
my point.
think of how it is right now, right? Because it's a reason Boba is getting all this attention, and I think a lot of players are a bit tired of facing Boba.
Yeah.
Like, I think I witnessed this firsthand when at my last round of Swiss, I sat down to play against the Han, and they were like, "Oh, my 4th Boba for the day. Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
Like, that feeling, their whole body language just told me, okay, this might be a problem, guys.
And honestly, I think that is a good reason to ban Boba, or to at least nerf Boba.
Yeah.
Just that in itself, even if it isn't overpowered, which I don't think, that is it doesn't need to be the reason to do something about Boba.
Yeah, because you said something there, like, a card being overpowered doesn't necessarily have to be the decision maker, right? Because
that's not why you ban a card. It's if it's causing problems.
Yeah.
So
which can be if he's overpowered. But.
Exactly. Yeah, sure. So the question really for the second part of the discussion is, does Boba cause problems? And you described a very real thing that happened this weekend that we saw with our own eyes. But is that what you feel when you go out looking during is this the takeaway from the store championship season as well? Because I don't think I saw it that way, at least not as much during store championships. And so leading up to the PQ season, I don't think that was, at least I didn't see that reaction that much. Did you guys?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people talking on YouTube about this, which leads me to believe that, there's probably a lot of other people as well that aren't YouTubers talking about this. But it's hard to know, of course. But I imagine that it has to be that case. Just looking at how many Boba decks are always in all tournaments, there's got to be frustration. Like, I keep losing to Boba Fett. I just want to have fun with this game. Even if they would lose against other decks, like if it wasn't just the same all the time, I think some people would want that.
Yeah. I think it's always going to be boring if you're playing against the same thing. But I think it's a positive thing that Boba is kind of a mid-rangey deck that plays units and plays kind of a normal game of Stars Unlimited, right? It would be more oppressive if you would see, for instance, something like a hard control deck being so popular and that strong.
Or a completely uninteractive deck if Sabine was this strong.
Exactly.
Especially like early Sabine, the one that we had in set 1, that just if it just ran away from you, and the only way to compete with it was to run with it, that's really not fun.
Yeah, that would be really boring.
But I think actually I have to kind of agree with Pontus's point about, like, popularity being a factor here, because
I think so.
My personal opinion is that Sabine, the green Sabine we have in set 2, is also one of the most strong decks. So I think if more great people or great players play that, if we just saw more of it, it could maybe have the same kind of meta position that Boba has today.
Which we partly have. Sabine is also really popular after all.
Yeah. But if you look at the PQ top 8s and the statistics, Boba is more than twice as popular in the PQ that has been right now. But I think there's one... I want to be the devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
So, touching on what you said, that Boba, for a deck, if you had to pick a deck to be oppressive, this kind of deck is the least problematic deck to be this rampant.
Yeah.
Even though I agree that it is a problem. Now, if you look, if you look at the PQ, especially the PQs where we've had this problem, that is supposed to be a competitive environment. Aren't people that specific subset of Star Wars players? Aren't those the ones that are supposed to be able to deal with the repetitiveness of one deck being a little bit stronger? Isn't this always going to be the case, that there's going to be something that's perceived to be strong?
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at other
still.
games, you have this situation all the time.
Yeah.
I think I think there's definitely always going to be this something like that, but I think that's this is my personal opinion, but I've talked with other people about it as well. But I don't think it's necessarily so narrow a field as we have seen currently. Star Wars Unlimited, if we look at like the winners of different tournaments, there's been like mostly of the big meta decks, but there's been also some weird ones, so to speak, off meta decks that's been winning, which tells me that they do compete with the meta decks. It's just that nobody's playing them anyway.
Yeah.
So I think that's more the thing I would want to see, and I think would be make the tournaments more interesting, frankly, that if there's more variety.
Yeah. But I want to say just one like counterpoint to what you said, Victor, about Boba being like a nice deck, not too oppressive to have as the most popular. And I would say I agree up until Boba Fett's armor, because the way that card is worded just completely shuts out so many decks that are unit based or just damage based.
Yeah.
Like the fact that you can have a single card that raises your odds of winning a matchup from, let's say, a 50-50 to a 70-30, just if you get to ramp into armor, that's
insane.
It's crazy, yeah. And I've talked to many people that for them it's like, okay, if they draw armor, I lose. If they don't, I have a really good chance.
Yeah.
And for a single card to impact the game that way is a bit tiring. Right?
Yeah.
It's a problem.
It's a big problem.
Yeah. So that actually kind of segues our discussion into the third part, right?
Yeah.
So what can be done? What would be interesting fixes? So Pontus, you mentioned that you would be all right with banning Boba.
Yeah. I think I don't know that is the best solution necessarily, but I think there could be an interesting way of having a meta that is constantly evolving is by actually having like I don't remember which game it is. It's some popular game that has a system where you regularly ban heroes, I think they call it.
Flesh and Blood.
Flesh and Blood.
Flesh and Blood had a system where when you win enough points in tournaments, the characters retire because they are in complete control of their own. What do you call it? The world.
Yeah.
They invented their own IP, so they can retire people and so on.
Yeah. So I kind of agree that when you remove something from the equation, the rest have to kind of compensate for it and change, right? So removing a popular leader probably would result in a meta change. I don't expect like if you remove the most popular, just the second and the third will go up and all of the others will stay the same. I think it might shake things up a little bit.
Yeah, it's really hard to know. It could be causing even more problems. We don't know. Maybe if Boba is banned, then like Sabine becomes overpowered for some reason.
Exactly,
I don't know. It's really hard to know.
But for sure, people would start experimenting with other yellow villain leaders.
Absolutely.
Like there would be people trying out Thrawn in different ways, and you'd see many of these yellow leaders being at least tested a lot more because at least the perception has been that you can build a really strong Thrawn deck, but that very same deck would just be stronger in Boba. And you could build a decent, what have you, yellow leader deck. Cad Bane is probably just stronger in Boba.
Yeah, so I think, like what you said, just the fact that it's could maybe make up for a more interesting meta could be an argument to ban Boba. But before we only talk about that, let's at least mention other things that we could do, or that FFG could do.
So FFG has a history of using something called a restricted list. This was a really fluid way of policing the meta that they've used in pretty much all of their LCGs. In the LCGs, everyone had access to all of the cards. So combinations were always open to every player, which meant that the combinations that could be made were something they looked a lot at. So when you got oppressive combinations, you want to break those combinations up. So the restricted list worked this way. All the cards on the restricted list were still available to all players. You could play a play set of a restricted card, but you could only have one card by name from the restricted list in your deck. You could have a full play set, but you couldn't have more. So if you had an oppressive combination, you put both of the cards on the restricted list, and you can only play one of them.
Yeah.
So this means that you can make a choice. Which one of these deck cards do I actually like? So, for instance, we could put Overwhelming Barrage and Fire Spray or Boba's Armor, or all three on the restricted list. You could play any of them, but you can't play all three. You can only play one of them.
Yeah.
That would solve a lot of the things we just talked about.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think in a way I agree, but I think it's not the optimal solution, because it's like a band-aid basically. It's like and I think that for the most part there aren't many cards that are like so oppressive. I think honestly the only card that I think is potentially entirely oppressive is Boba's Armor, because of the things we talked about. So there are some cards that are really, really good. But Boba's Armor can really turn a game from I can't win. Like I was having a decent chance of winning, and then he had this one card, so now I'm out of the game.
I agree.
And I think for that reason, I think it might be better to just ban that specific card, honestly.
Yeah, I'm thinking that you're probably right, that at the current meta, those three cards are probably the only cards I can think of that are really oppressive, and I don't think Fire Spray is all even that oppressive. It's basically just Barrage and Boba Armor that.
Yeah, but I don't think we can remove Overwhelming Barrage.
No, I don't want to remove it. That's why.
Okay, restricted. Yeah, okay.
So
no,
the restriction here is a future proofing, because given what we talked about, how hard it is to perceive metas when you design, there is very likely to show up more combinations of this sort.
Yeah.
And having a restricted list, maybe there won't be particularly many cards on it from the beginning, but as the game evolves, this is a very fluid tool, and you can move cards in and out of the restricted list. Often for Game of Thrones or Netrunner, the updates to the restriction list was more meta changing than the actual card releases, because they were trickling out cards very much in those games. So the restriction lists updates that happen maybe twice or three times a year, those were the things you were looking to have your shakeups in the meta.
Yeah. Okay, so that's something we could see. I mean, banning could also, as you mentioned, happen to key cards like armor. But then you could also errata cards. That's maybe something that's not liked in the community, right? Because
I
it's
think
just
it's
so
highly
confusing.
problematic, just because these are physical cards we're talking about. Like in like a different game that's online, sure. You just say, now we change the card, so the text changes online. But this is a physical game. I think it causes too much issues to errata cards. At least like you could do like they've done in like Magic, for example. They changed the wording, but it's the same effect. Stuff like that I can see, because they like decided that we want to have more clear wording on stuff than this is the official wording, but it in principle works exactly the same. Maybe something like that, but not changing the effects.
I've actually only ever seen one game get away with errata in cards in a good way, and again an LCG, so every player had all the cards, and the cards weren't expensive. So Doomtown Reloaded from AEG, they would do this. They would errata cards, but they would distribute the errata cards, new versions of them for free with the next pack, with the next release. So everyone would get the updated card. And that works for a card game where the cards aren't actually valued
Exactly.
at anything. They don't cost anything really. So then it doesn't matter. But if you get a valuable card, like for instance Boba Fett, and you have a showcase of Boba Fett, and all of a sudden that showcase isn't playable anymore because it's worded wrong.
I think though, I think that shouldn't be like. I think it shouldn't be a high priority, to be honest, because like if we're choosing to ban cards, it's for like what is best for the game. Like how do we make sure the game is a healthy game that people gravitate towards and want to keep playing. If we choose to not ban cards because there are people that have valuable copies of the card, that's not a good thing, honestly. I think yes, it sucks for those people. It's bad for those people that they would lose the value of that card, so to speak. But I don't think FFG should really keep that as a big priority.
But wasn't the whole idea about trying to get this is to keep people happy about the game and give people confidence in the game? If people have spent a lot of money on a card and then that card is all of a sudden worth nothing because of a decision, I think that would make people not trust the game.
I think they should consider it, but I think they should consider it less than making sure the game is a healthy and interesting game. That's what I'm saying.
So like luckily with leaders, they will always be super cheap, so banning those will probably be not as impactful as we've seen like in Magic, for instance. There was recently a very strong card banned in a Commander format where everyone was upset because they just bought these new expensive cards and now they're not going to be worth as much. But I think when it comes to commons, right, or rares, leaders, then should be fine. But there's another thing actually I want to mention, and that's what if FFG create cards that are answers to strong things? Like maybe that's gonna be a bit of a power creep, but what do you guys think about that?
I think in theory that's obviously the best solution, and I think that's been at least the aim of FFG in most of their games. They definitely tried to do that all the way through with Netrunner. That was always their answer. No, but we are releasing cards that will solve this problem. But it's a very slow tool, and you can get stuck in an unhealthy meta if you have to wait, because the process of designing cards is very...
Exactly.
I mean, the cards they are designing now are not going to be released for another year or more.
Yeah, that's why I don't think it can be a working solution, really.
Yeah. It's not reliable, at least.
Yeah.
It could absolutely be the aim to try and balance things like that, especially if there are small problems.
Yeah.
But large problems, and especially if they are intense, it's a strong opinion among the player base, then I think it's too clumsy and too slow.
Yeah, that's true. I agree.
Okay, so we've talked about banning the leader itself, banning key cards, restricted lists, errata, or like maybe some power creep to solve it. But right now, should we wait? Because set 3 is just around the corner. What do you guys think?
Such a tough question. I think there could be points. I don't know. I don't think they're going to do that. But just to make the meta interesting, to say like we're banning Boba Fett right now, or maybe we're banning Boba's armor right now for the PQs to make it like more interesting. I don't know if that's feasible though. I think a lot of people would be pissed off. So probably not. That's my answer.
It's really hard to anticipate how people will react, right? Because these topics tend to be controversial, so you can't please everyone.
Yeah.
No. I personally think that having the set 3 just around the corner, and they've been talking so specifically about having tested these 3 sets so much together, and I have a little bit of hope that because I've been so impressed with the game so far, how well designed it's been, really, and I really hope that when we have all 3 sets out, things will be quite balanced with these 3 sets, because they talked about these 3 sets being the foundational sets, releasing the core mechanics, the core ideas. So I really wouldn't want them to do much of any panicking when it comes to this issue or any issues like this before we get a stable meta from set 3. But if we are still perceiving Boba in this problematic way a couple of months into set 3, well, then I would want them to look at some kind of balancing. Not because me personally, I don't mind Boba being this prevalent. I actually don't have a problem with the deck being this prevalent, especially if it's like the Boba deck. It's not giving me an NPE feeling that much. The Boba armor, sure, but I'm a Sabine player. I can take care of the armor.
Yeah, Paul.
It's NPE.
NPE, negative play experience.
Oh.
So if a mill deck was this popular and this oppressive, I'd be screaming. But Boba is not that. Boba isn't feeling that hopeless to play against. It's not preventing me from playing the game.
True.
It's just doing it a little bit better than me, maybe. But I think as long as people are feeling this way and being this upset about it, if that keeps going, my feelings are not going to be the important feelings here. But we need to listen to the player base, and if the player base is upset, I want, for the longevity of the game, I really want them to do something, but I don't want them to do too drastic solutions. I think banning is a very drastic solution. Maybe you could do a version of the Fab Flesh and Blood version where you have like the retirement, but maybe it's like a timeout. If you perform too well for a while, you get put in timeout for a set. So for this period of time, it's banned. But you know from the beginning that's not. It's just for this time. Boba is going to be back in set 4 or 5.
Yeah, it could be an exciting thing, right?
Could be. I think you made a good point, or like I guess Adam before the podcast, like the showcases. I think actually they won't do anything like that because of the showcases. Honestly, I think exactly. I guess Viktor, you made a good point about that. Rather, like that they would lose people. They wouldn't get people really upset. I think.
Yeah.
So they probably won't do anything with the leaders in that way. At least that's my guess.
The restricted list again is a very fluid and soft solution that could help again if we keep having the problem, and maybe Boba might get frozen in carbonite for a set. I wouldn't mind having a carbonite zone. Leaders could get frozen in carbonite if they perform too well in set 3. They get frozen in carbonite for set 4, and then they're back in set 5.
That's an interesting one actually, because then you get to keep your showcases. He's gonna be back soon, but you still force people to try something new in the meta. I like that idea actually.
And the showcases, they're like not for most players. They look good, kind of collector's items. So maybe they will like hold some of their value, even though it can't be played as much, right? Because they're still super cool.
Well, I mean, Boba Fett is going to keep their value, but, Iden Verso dropped like a stone when she wasn't popular anymore.
Yeah.
Like, because if the character isn't as famous, let's say Gar Saxon got really oppressive for a while, he'd rise in value, but he'd be right back to 0 as soon as he's not a good player.
I think you are right. Many players, if they find a leader they really like in the deck, then they might consider getting the showcase for it, so they can use it, and like if they really love the leader in the deck. So
and the character probably. I think most people won't get a showcase unless they like the character as well as the leader.
Exactly. I agree with that.
Okay, so maybe to close it out, we can do a bit of a teaser. I actually just saw that Asajj Vengeance was spoiled.
Yeah.
And she's also villainy,
Mhm.
cunning,
Yellow.
and she, if you play Surprise Strike, can one-shot Boba Fett. So maybe we already have the answer, guys.
Could be.
She's gonna be so fast. That leader is going to make Yellow into a Rush archetype. Yellow
Potentially,
villainy is going to run. And it's going to run fast.
Forget Green Boba. You
Yeah.
ramp deploy her immediately.
Yeah.
It's so hard
mean-
to tell, but yeah, she definitely has the potential of that for sure.
She deploys at 4.
Yeah, but
And
she's
you
only a
play con-
3/4.
Yeah, but you play a cunning on her. You're at 4 resources. You play a cunning. She strikes for 9.
Or 8.
You can tap 2 units, so she gets to get that off.
Yeah. But that's one time. I mean, yeah. I'm not saying she's gonna be bad. I'm saying that like,
Yeah.
She's gonna be
all you
fast.
need is like an open fire. Like, oh, you do cunning. Okay, open fire. Like
Yeah.
she's got
for
only
sure.
4 HP. But I
For
think
sure.
she's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
I think as Jonah said, I think the interesting part is that she can actually kill Boba Fett on his
Yeah,
quick turn
because
one
of the
card, like, yeah.
attacking first thing, right?
Yeah.
That's really
And
cool.
even if he ramps, she still gets to flip that turn.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think this Asajj Ventress is definitely an interesting release here. I got really excited about it.
and
Nice.
she's a really popular character as well. So
Yeah,
for sure. A lot of people like her a lot.
All right, guys. Do you have any last words before we close it?
yeah, yes, I want to encourage people to make new decks because I am fully committed to that, and I think people can make more interesting decks that will compete with the meta decks. So please do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's true. Like theory crafting and deck building is so much fun.
And
So-
the Hunter is definitely underrated.
Yeah, I think he will become much better with all of the new cards that have the same or that share a name, right? With the new sets.
Yeah. The new R2D2. Ooh, yeah.
And it's really hard to overrate him at this point.
Yeah, so you definitely have to be either underrated or correctly well. Okay, great. Thanks for coming on, Pontus. It was
Yeah,
a
thanks for
really
having me.
nice having you and a great discussion.
Yeah. I'll
was
see
fun.
you at the pre-release if nothing else, because I'm coming to Västerås for sure.
Nice. Yeah, I'll see you there.
See you there.
Great. All right, that was it. See you guys in the next one.
Yeah.
Bye.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.